School's out at Canterbury College, a busy private campus in Brisbane's commuter belt.
We sort of take all of Logan, the northern Gold Coast, southern Brisbane. This is a school that teachers like to teach at and students like to come to.
For the sports-mad kids and their families, that means netball and rugby training is the next stop.
I've got two girls here, they're in the netball academy and they're loving their journey there.
But from next year, the number of young athletes on these courts may shrink. The government is about to introduce a new funding model that critics claim will slash millions of dollars a year from the long-term budgets of suburban and regional private schools like this one.
A figure in the order of between $2.5 and $3 million over the next decade is what we're factoring in.
They've had significant funding increases since we've been in office, and they'll continue to have funding increases locked in all the way out to 2029.
So I've got a son that's going to come next year.
Despite the Education Minister's assurances, Iko Iva is worried that the school will have to either cut classes or put its fees up.
It'll be quite a stretch and quite an inconvenience, I think, for myself and my family to potentially have my different kids go to different schools.
I myself travel 45 to 50 minutes to get my children here to this college. So any other little impact obviously is going to have a huge impact on families.
From January next year, the federal government will allocate money to schools based on parents' median taxable income, rather than the average wealth in the local area.
If you've got wealthier families, you attract less money. If you've got poorer families, you attract more money.
Under the new system, 23% of independent schools will get the same amount of money. 42% will get more, but 35% will lose government funding.
I woke up this morning and there was a wallaby in our yard.
About 45 minutes west of Melbourne, Bacchus Marsh Grammar is one of the fastest growing schools in Victoria.
And I think that's partly because of the school's reputation, but also it sits in two of the key growth pathways of Melbourne.
Principal Andrew Neil reckons the government's rule change will mean $5 million less by the end of the decade, and says 2022 class numbers have already been reduced.
We've gone from 12 to 8 across the school as a direct result of the decision by the government to change the funding model.
The new model is not without support. The influential Catholic sector is on board.
The Catholic systems support the direct measure of income because it is simply that. It's intrinsically fairer. It gauges the income of parents.
Some of the nation's richest schools, like Sydney's St Ignatius Riverview, will lose just $500,000 or $300 per student. Some similar schools like Cranbrook, Skeggs and Sydney Grammar aren't losing a cent.
There are 24 schools, all of them inner city, Sydney, Melbourne, and I think there are 3 in Perth, that receive no funding losses at all.
These schools are already receiving the least amount of government funding on a per student basis. So a school like Skeds would get about a quarter of the per student funding compared to a school like Canterbury.
Bacchus Marsh Principal Andrew Neil and staff member Bruce Simons have organised a rebel lobby that claims the backing of 73 schools and is gearing up for a public political brawl.
Our people are Menzies' forgotten people. They are Howard's battlers, and they do ask the question why a Conservative government is doing this to them.
Bacchus Marsh has had significant increases under us since coming to office, going from about $6,500 to about $9,000 per student today.
Over the last 30 years, the number of private school students in Australia has doubled and growth's been fastest in the suburbs. The rebel schools hope to reach these aspirational voters in marginal electorates. They've commissioned polling across 4 states that shows it could become a battleground issue in these seats.
Hello everyone.
The Rebel Schools Group held its first annual general meeting this week.
Parents are angry. We've done the research and we've actually surveyed parents across a raft of different electorates, but in particular in marginal seats.
Thank you all. Come on, Jack. Come
The politics of school funding are notoriously brutal, and some believe a campaign against Malcolm Turnbull by Catholic schools contributed to his ousting as PM. Some of the rebels believe part of the policy's aim was to neutralise the damaging campaign by Catholic schools and are lobbying government backbenchers.
Disproportionately, the Catholic sector certainly benefits significantly from this new DMI funding model.
Well, the treatment for Catholic schools is the same as it is for independent non-government schools.
The Education Minister Alan Tudge says the government has announced a $1.2 billion transition fund that state school associations can disperse to struggling schools.
It's a fair system, it's an equitable system, and it's been one that has been agreed by every state and territory in the country, along with the peak independent and Catholic school bodies.
You don't have to say corroborate.
On school grounds in Australia's outer cities and regions, some principals, parents and teachers say it's not enough, leaving them no choice but to fight for their communities.
They're feeling pretty sad about it. I think there's families out here that are really invested in trying to get their kids the education and be a part of the programs that are available here.
We're copping the full brunt of it in a part of Australia that can probably least afford it.
Hi, I'm Lee Sales. Thanks for watching this story. If you'd like to watch more of 730's stories, they are on the left of your screen. And tap on the button below to subscribe and get the latest from ABC News.